In this video, I'm going to walk you through on how you can create your first script that contains a very simple line of code that should be able to make this armored vehicle to move from this position to a new position along the z-axis. Now, if you pay close attention on the z-axis, you discover that the value is changing. Okay, so we're going to be making use of this transform component to be able to translate this from its old position to a new position. Now, the first thing we're going to do is right click and create a folder. So we're going to call the folder scripts. So this will contain all the scripts we're going to be writing in this project. So I'm going to open it and then we're going to create our very first script. Now see that the name is new behavior. So I will advise do not click while the new behavior is still highlighted. Type player control. Having typed player control, you can see the name of the file is player control and the name of our class is equally player control, which is very important. The reason I advise you shouldn't click on any point having created the script is because we want to maintain the same file name with the class name, which is also player control. But the moment, let's create a new script. Let me show you an example. Now you can see the name is new behavior. Let's double click on it. Let's go back. Okay, it's still loading. Let's double click. Now you can see the name here is new behavior script. This is actually the file name, but then this is the class name. You can see the keyword class. This is the class name. So we should always ensure the class name and the file name is always the same. Now, if we come here and we change the name to let's give it any name. Let's call it ball. This is our file name. So when you double click, you discover the name is still new behavior script. Now that happens because we did not immediately change the name after creating the script. We can come here and change the name to ball, which is also correct, but then to make things easy for you, you should always change the name as soon as you have the script created. So let's delete this and then let's go back to our player control script. Let's delete this first. Okay, so now we have the player control script. Now to explain this, the first 3 lines of code, this form what you refer to as import statement or library in C# programming language. So the keyword using is also denoting import. Okay, so this means import this particular library into this code. So this was automatically created after creating the script. So remember, we did not add any of the lines of code that we have here. So the only thing we did was to create the file name, which is player control, and it generates the class name, which is also player control. So the next line of code that we have here is referred to as the class statement line of code. So you can see it has a column and it has a keyword mono behavior. So this is actually a built-in class in Unity. So this line of code means this player control is going to inherit all the property of this class called mono behavior. But the question is, what is contained inside the mono behavior class? So some of the functionality that are contained inside the mono behavior class is what we have in between this block of code. The first on our list is the void start. The second is void update. Now you may ask, what's the difference between void start, void update, and the class? Now these are what you refer to as a method. So how do I know this is actually a method? A method has this open and close bracket. A class does not have this open and close bracket. The only thing that a class has is this open bricks. You can see this curly bricks. So that's the only thing a class contains. It does not have this open and close bracket. So that is how you know a method. So you can see that a method also has a block. So we can add some lines of code here and we can equally add lines of code here. So in a nutshell, this library give birth to the class and the class give birth to the method, meaning library is bigger than a class and a class is bigger than method. Subsequently, we're going to be talking about variable. That's where we'll understand that a method is also bigger than a variable. So you can see the hierarchical nature in which your lines of code is arranged. Now, you may not understand, if this happens to be your first time coding, you may not understand some of the jargons that we are using here, but subsequently, I assure you, you're going to, as you get your hands dirty, you're going to understand virtually all these lines of code. So they are basically simple. We're going to expatiate more on all of the terminology that we've mentioned here. So we said earlier, we're going to make the vehicle to move down the road. So we're going to do that in our void update method. So the line of code that can make the vehicle to move down the road is this. We're going to say transform.translate, and then we're going to open the open and close brackets. Now you remember what we say about open and close bracket. Now that tells you that from here to this point is actually a method. This is a method, and then this is a dot operator. I wouldn't want to bore you with a lot of terminology for now, but then the transform that we have here is the same thing with what we have here. You can see, let's select the vehicle. You can see transform here, even though this is capital letter, but I want you to understand that we're going to be making use of this position X, Y, and Z. So this is class. You can see it's starting with a capital letter. A class always starts with capital letter, but the instance of a class starts with small letter. Don't worry, I'm introducing you to a lot of jargons, but do not worry, we'll explain all that later. So just note, this is a class, but then this one with a small letter is actually the instance of this class. So we're going to come here, and then we're going to impute some values. Okay, so we are done. So I'm going to hit save, then I'll go back to Unity. So haven't saved it. Now we're going to add the script to this armored vehicle. So I'm going to select the script. I'm going to select the armored vehicle. I'll drag the script. Either you can drop it here, or you can equally come over here and then drop it. So as soon as you see the blue line, the blue horizontal line, just release. Cannot release. Okay, let's cancel this. Let's bring it down toward this end. Okay, so we have successfully added the script. So let's hit play and see what happens. So you can see our code works. So with just this simple line of code, you can see that our code can translate across the road. Now this first 0 is our x-axis, so this is our y-axis, and the last one is our z-axis. So we're actually translating along the z-axis. So if I switch this from 0 to 1 and I change this to 0 and I hit save, what do you think will happen? Simple, it's going to translate along the y-axis. So let's hit play and see the result. Good, you can see our vehicle translating along, but then this is not a helicopter, this is rather a car, so we always want it to translate along the z-axis. That's all I have for you in this video, so I'll see you guys in the next video.